Hey everybody, Captain Bill here, and today we're on Harmony, we're at the mast, and we're going to talk about what it takes to safely go up aloft on the mast. Every sailboat needs somebody to go up the mast occasionally, whether it's routine maintenance, to fix something, to inspect gear, whatever it is, people need to be up there, and it's really important that you do it safely. To talk about all the issues that are involved in handling a person up the mast and keeping them safe is way too much for what I'm going to do today. I'm just going to talk about one small piece of the puzzle, and it's one that I think is frequently ignored. What kind of line should you go up the mast on to keep you safe? Now, I have a really intense emotional attachment to this topic because the first time I ever went up a mast, just as I got to the top of the mast, the halyard broke. Now, the only thing that saved me was I was really careful. I had a second halyard attached to a separate harness, and that's why I'm here to talk to you today. So I know that things can break even though you never expect them to. So let's talk about the lines that we have available here on Harmony that could possibly take us up the mast. We have a 12mm Vectron cord line that's our Genoa halyard. This line has a breaking strength rated new at 19,200 pounds. Next, we have our mainsail halyard, which is a 10mm Vectron cord line. Its breaking strength is rated at 12,400 pounds. Now we come to the 98-pound weakling here. This one is a double braid Dacron line, very typical standard material. This has a breaking strength rated at about 2,000 pounds. Which one would you trust your life to way up there? Well, the answer is a little more complicated than you might think. Let's talk a little about how these lines are made and why we use them the way we do. So this is a regular Vectron cord line. The Vectron core is where all the strength is. This outer cover is there just to protect the core from the sun and to make it less slippery. Performances on cleats, clutches, and winches are way better with this kind of line if you have the grabbiness of the Dacron cover instead of the really slippery high-tech core. So the reason we use these high-tech lines is not usually for their incredible strength. What we use them for is their resistance to stretch. Right? They don't stretch as they're loaded up. If you have one of these as your halyard or sheet, as the wind picks up, the sail trim doesn't change. So you don't have to constantly be fiddling with things, and it gives the boat a better performance. So the stretch on these lines, being really low, is almost always good for us as sailors, except when the line has to make a tight bend like this. Maybe in a knot, maybe going over a sheave or something like that. But the fibers on the outside of the core have to make a longer path than the ones on the inside. They can't stretch to become longer to make that bend. So they end up crushing and cutting the fibers that are underneath. Over time, this damage accumulates and the line gets weaker and weaker, but you can't see any change in it because it's inside the cover. Let's have a look at this. This line we've actually retired as our mainsail halyard, and we took it down, and what I'm going to do is peel back the cover so we can see right where the line sat over the sheave under load, and we're going to see what that looks like. So here I am going to pull the core out and oops. Well, the core has been damaged to the point where it doesn't exist anymore. If you had tied this line to your bosun's chair to go up the mast, the only thing keeping your butt from splatting down on deck would be this sun cover, which isn't designed to carry any load at all. And you can see, I mean, there's a little dirt, but there's no significant amounts of damage to that cover. you would not assume that there was anything seriously wrong with this line from a visual inspection. So the answer to the question, which line is the best to go up the mast, it's actually the weakest of the bunch. It's that 10 millimeter polyester double braid. Why? Because going around tight bends isn't a problem for it, because the fibers can stretch and just lay on top of each other without damaging the lower ones. Also, the cover and the core are both load-bearing parts of the line. If you were to completely remove the core, the cover is still half as strong as the line started out. But there's no real way that the internal core is damaged without showing damage to the outer cover as well. So the key here is you can visually inspect the line to be sure that it's the way it should be. And it will keep you from coming down much faster than you went up. So if the only halyards you have on your boat are the high-tech Vectran or Dyneema or whatever type of high-tech core you use, if they're the only ones you have, be prepared to replace them when you go up the mast. Don't trust your life to one of these. You can't see if it's damaged. So just keep a 10 or 12 millimeter line long enough to go all the way up to the top and back down of your longest mast with enough left over for comfort. And if you have to change out a halyard, just consider it one of the safety things you do when you go up the mast, just like you would use a safety line or a second halyard or whatever it is that you'd use to keep you from coming down too fast.